Behind every mission, there's a plan. Behind every plan, there's a soldier, training, leading, and getting the job done. This is the Kentucky National Guard's G3 podcast, where we share the stories, lessons, and leadership that keep our Guard always ready, always there.
Welcome, hello to the G3P Fix Bayonets. I'm your favorite podcast platoon sergeant, Sergeant B. We're here in Frankfort, Kentucky for another episode of the Fix Bayonets series. Hope all is well. Glad you're tuning in. We've kind of had a little adventure over the last several episodes that we've had, and just touching on training points, things that's going on with the Kentucky Army National Guard, and bringing in soldiers and letting them tell their stories. And today will be no exception to that. We have touched base with the medevac a few times. So we had Sergeant Renee on last episode, and she gave us kind of the insights of the flight paramedics in that world. But we're not going to stop there. We have somebody else that wants to share some more stories and some more trainings and TTPs for you guys out there that they've used over the years. So without further ado, we have Staff Sergeant Ryan Hunter. Welcome
Hello.
to the podcast, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hey, good deal. How was the drive in?
Not too bad.
Yeah, no deers and anything like that?
No, not this time. I mean, 64 is a mess, but it always is.
Yeah. So you just got back from the deployment as well to
Yes.
Kosovo? So everything seems like y'all had an interesting MOB. And
Yeah, we had a good time.
lessons learned and stuff like that. So, but let's dive into a little bit about you.
Sure.
When did we join the Guard? What did we do?
So I joined in 2011. I was still in high school. So I joined at the ripe age of 17
Okay.
and went right into a 68 whiskey slot.
Was it the split op? Or did you graduate at 17?
Was
Was you split up or you went?
I was split up, but I joined too late to go to basic over summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I
But
basically
just did it all. this
Yeah,
summer
I just deferred until I graduated.
Yeah, that's why I said, it's an interesting thing. We always have somebody on here that it seems like their recruiting process or how they got in, it's always different, or their background or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And we had brought up, the split op, like some people do sometimes, and, they go and wait a summer and come
Yeah, I
back.
joined
but
in December, so they're like, no, we're just going to wait till you
Yeah.
graduate.
Did you do RSP?
Yeah.
Oh, so you just wrote that out until?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. So 68 whiskey. Mm-hmm. That's only MOS?
Yep, that's all I got.
Man, that's
That's
crazy.
it.
I still always bring it up. God bless y'all. I mean, the medical world, it's not for me. But
It's not that bad.
But on that side, though, you had mentioned even on the civilian world what you do. Mm-hmm. Flight paramedic, right?
Correct.
And how long have you been doing that?
So I've been a flight paramedic for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
now, I think. But yeah, I've been a paramedic since 2015.
Okay.
I've been EMT since 2012 or 2013.
Right.
Whenever I graduated AIT.
But with
So-
the 68 whiskey side, and we had talked about in the previous episode, you come in as a ground medic. There are just your
Yeah.
basic medic that comes in and gets attached to units. Was you always with the medevac, or was you with a
No.
different unit?
So I started out with the 103rd Chemical Battalion.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And spent some time there, then went to the 201st Engineers. Got tasked out to some MPs for Hurricane Irma Maria. And went back to the Engineers after that, and then eventually moved over to the dust off here with aviation.
Okay. And then been there ever since.
Yep.
What hurricane did you say?
Irma Maria.
Irma Maria.
Yeah, it's the one that hit the
Catholic hymn song.
I know. That's the one that's that the dual Cat 5s that hit the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico.
Okay, all right. And y'all went out?
Yeah, the med
Yeah.
went down there too. They did a lot of good work with search and rescue, but I went on the ground side to do support with EMPs.
Okay. So was it kind of like that was like the first bigger adventure as far as being in the Guard, first kind of task out?
A lot of smaller stuff.
Yeah.
With the Surf P, we did a lot of training.
Yeah,
So we
small
would,
third chem.
yeah. So we went all over the place. Did a ton of TDY, a ton
Yeah.
of training. It was a really awesome time.
Well, we'll get into that, but let's kind of get back to you. So, did you have any family or anything that did the military? What made you go into the military? I guess what was the big push?
So I grew up in a service-oriented household.
Okay.
So my dad's a firefighter paramedic, and then
So, all right, I got you.
I got
Okay.
it honestly. It
Yeah.
disappointed him greatly when I told him I was going to paramedic school.
A
But
lot of people go to college for 7 years.
Yeah.
Doctors.
really missed the boat on that one.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But my grandfather was a master gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps.
Marine? Okay.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
I spent 33 or 34 years.
Dang, good for
Yep.
him.
Most of it was active duty.
Yeah.
Did Vietnam. He was a crypto, like signals intelligence
Right,
guy.
right.
So he was all over the world. Him and my dad's family. So that kind of inspired me to go that route.
30-some years in the Marine.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah, we always joked we didn't know who was more of a Marine, my grandfather or my grandmother. And we think it was my grandmother.
Yeah. I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah, she raised 5 kids and all over
Just taking
the
her
planet.
everywhere over the world.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, you got to give a shout out to the spouses and stuff and the kids,
Oh, yeah.
man. I mean,
I couldn't do that.
It's crazy. Yeah, that is
My
crazy.
job's easy. I just show up to work.
Just show up and do it. So what made you choose the Guard? Was there anything that stood out particular, or just one day you're like, I got to do something?
Well, it was partially I wanted to do something, but I knew I wanted to go to college.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the educational benefits were there.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to stay local and also like help out the state and the community
That's
too.
cool. Yeah.
So I already knew I wanted to go do something in the medical field. And obviously my dad, I'd grown up around the firehouse and EMS. So I was like, well, that's pretty neat. I'll join as a medic, see if I like the military.
Right.
And if I don't like it, I go to college for free, and it's 6 years, and I'm done. If I do like it, the world's kind of your oyster at that point. So
Right.
you can do whatever you want.
It is kind of the scenario. It seems it plays out. It's like, well, I can do the 6 years, or that contract.
Yeah.
And you'll talk to soldiers. It's like they're depending on the experience or where they're at in life. Then you talk to them. They're like, well, I've been in 12 now, or I've been in 13, or
Yeah, and I was 17. I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, I can barely get dressed in the morning. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to be when I grow. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
So
rock star. That's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do. I don't know how to play an instrument
Or
I can't
astronaut.
sing, but astronaut. All right. Yeah. Space Force.
yeah, space shuttle door gunner. That'd be pretty sweet.
All right. So we join the Guard. You go to the 68 Whiskey. Where is it? Fort Hood.
That's Fort Sam Houston.
Sam Houston. Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
for 68 Whiskey AIT.
Yeah. It's 20-some weeks or something. There's it longer than that.
Oh, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
It's long, but it's not the longest, but it's not short either.
What did you think about the course? I'd asked Sergeant Renee about it.
Oh,
and
this
how
was
it worked for her,
forever
but-
ago, dude.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
So, you come in there, you're AIT, and you don't know anything because you're
Right.
private. But, the course was good. The EMT was challenging because it's a lot of information compressed into a really short timeline. And then you get through that and you start going to your field craft stuff, sit call. So I had a good time all in all throughout the course from what I can remember. But it was pretty standard Army AIT. Like, you wake up, you train until you want to puke, and then you go to bed and do it all again.
Yeah. Just keep repeating the process. Who checks on the medics if you're going to be a medic?
The medic.
The medic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it? Do you remember anybody that stood out as far as how it is? When people talk about NCOs that they were great leadership, or this one was lacking, or whatever. Was there anything that kind of stood out to you? Ever was like that medic's got it going on, or whatever? I'm kind of inspired. This is what I want to do, or for sure,
Yeah, there were a couple. One that I remember the best is Sergeant Alexander, who's one of my AIT cadre. Or I don't think they were drills. They quit being drill sergeants at that point.
Yeah.
But he was super squared away medic, really good NCO, took care of us.
Yeah.
Wasn't as you find in TRADOC, wasn't like super burnout.
Right.
Seemed that like he actually wanted to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
So and I think he was also taking a knee because he had done like 4 or 5 combat deployments.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to get out of the operational space for a little bit and grow his family.
Yeah.
But he was a super squared away NCO, great medic. Kind of took all of us, baby idiots under his wing, and kind of gave us. He went above and beyond. He did a little bit extra mentoring, a little bit extra stuff on the field craft.
Yeah.
So I think that's
and you
what
notice it. You know what I mean? You notice that stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So even the little bit extra outside of being an E7 pay to be a babysitter, more or less, he actually kind of took it upon himself to grow us and our capabilities, which was really nice.
Yeah. I mean that's cool because we all, like I said, you kind of see that throughout your career as you progress, and you see those people, and it seems like the ranks can sometimes get higher where it's like, oh, I remember that E5, I want to be that buck sergeant. And it's like, as you get there, you're like, oh, that E7 man, he's a square away platoon sergeant. And it's like, and that's a good thing because it keeps, I think, that muscle memory keep moving and keeps you creative, and you take those lessons learned. Or like I said, there's some people that kind of fall short sometimes. You make that mental note. Yeah. Like, I can do better than this or whatever, and I'll change it if I ever make it to that. So that push is always, like I said, it's something I always kind of tell younger soldiers. I feel like that's the thing you got to tell them. Like, hey, make it your own, but you can always take lessons learned from everybody. I mean, just
You can learn something
work
from
around it.
anyone, and
Anywhere.
most of the time it's how not to do something.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Well, okay, so you said you moved around the units, kind of ended up with the medevac, and from what I hear, it's kind of a smaller kind of unit.
It's tiny.
And but it just seems like everybody knows the job, right? Everybody comes here, we know what we're doing. This is what we got to do. So to me, it sounds like the logistics as well as the training and all that stuff. Like, can you talk about how that morale happens when y'all show up, like for a drill or anything like that?
Yeah, so it's a little multifactorial. So part of it is in the med we get a little bit of leeway because of the mission set and everything like that. Try to select from more experienced pilots, more experienced crew chiefs, ground maintainers, and medics. So part of it is that, but I think there's an overwhelming culture in the unit of know your job, know it well, and just do it. It's adult rules.
Nike.
Yeah, so pretty much, or Shia LaBeouf, but just do it. But we take a lot of pride in being able to, in our mission, number one. I think when you have a mission like we have in the Dust Off, it's pretty easy to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff. Like, people get into, especially on mission, of being like, hey, we're here to help people on their worst day. It's a privilege to be able to do that. Yeah. And you kind of got to earn it every day.
That's a great attitude.
And you want to be there for those people because you're the lifeline for someone. You know, whether it be short notice response domestically or on mission overseas. So when you kind of have that gravity of the mission, it kind of drives a lot of other factors. Right. From training to mission critical stuff, even to just like trying to keep the tinier details, which can very easily be lost, kind of squared away. Mm-hmm. So I think having that and trying to push that mentality from the top down and encourage people at the lowest level to kind of buy in. And we joke, but it's also like kind of not a joke. We call it the cult. Yeah. So like that cult mentality of like, we're the best at what we do. We want to do this. We want to do this job. We want to show up to drill. We want to fly. We want to do our jobs. That is kind of like the guiding motivation for everything that we do. And that informs and kind of sparks people to be better. Yeah. It also sparks a lot of like, it can seem kind of brusque to outsiders, but we can be pretty pointed with each other, of like, hey, you screwed that up. Let's not do that again. Yeah. But also that's like the follow on to that is here's where you screwed up. Yeah. We're going to do it again and again and again. Yeah. Until we figure it out. So I love the unit. I love the mentality that everyone has. And it honestly kind of makes you a lazy NCO a little bit.
Don't say that.
Yeah. You don't have to,
just because everybody's on that page.
You don't have to motivate people as much.
Yeah, because they're there. I know what you're trying to go with.
Typically the people that come to the unit either fall in line or find a new paragraph and line number. So
I get it.
You don't have to necessarily do as much as like to inspire people to get people excited about doing their jobs. Yeah. And I think part of that is because it's very tangible for us.
Well, I think that's the difference to me. Like I mean, I wouldn't use the word lazy. Grit meets growth, as Sir Major Stahl would say. Yeah, but like it's like when you show up sometimes and you have all these soldiers that's under you, and whether it's a junior enlisted or whatever, you got to harp on what I got to teach these, how I need to train them, make sure you're doing your spot checks, PCCs, PCIs, all that stuff. Whereas this unit's a little bit more unique. Everybody's coming there with that same vision, be on the same page. And we expect you to perform, right? 100%. We're all family. We're that cult buy-in, right? This is our mentality, but everybody's got to buy in to make this a success. And if not, then go somewhere else, right? I mean, it's the harsh reality. And
from the top to the bottom, like from the fuelers to our ops folks to the people that, even our ground mechanics, every single person has to do their job extraordinarily well. Yes. Because if one person falters in the chain, it all goes to hell in a handbasket very quickly. Especially when you're talking like time sensitive or critical mission loads. Yeah. I do think it is easy to get kind of complacent. Yeah. And that's probably like the biggest thing as an NCO or just like organizationally you have to kind of guard against.
Right.
Is it, especially on mission, thankfully people aren't burning us up with 9 lines every day.
Yeah.
It's easy to get sort of like in the doldrums of things, but reminding and setting aside like enriching training and stuff like that and keeping people on their toes kind of helps maintain that mindset and also gives a lot of successes.
Yeah.
And people take that and they're like, hey, look at what we did. It builds pride. So when you have training successes and like operational exercise successes and things like that, it kind of helps build people up. They start to develop like an inertia of, hey, we're doing awesome shit out here. Like we get to, provide medevac coverage for an entire AOR. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's not saying you set up every training evolution for
Right.
people to win without challenging them.
Yeah.
But it does show people, from the most senior to the most junior of like set up a challenging training evolution or an operation and be like, hey, let's go execute this thing. And at the end of it, you can be like, hey, we did really, really good work.
Yeah. And let's caveat off of that. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
When we come back in, let's jump into the training that you're talking about. Those things that y'all have to do to keep things fresh, or things that might change up as you go, and to keep that morale up and keep people on their toes and stuff like that. Because, like I said, it's a very unique unit, and I know y'all got very unique stories.
Oh yeah,
and
we
we'll
got
get to
plenty of
those
stories.
as well. Yeah. So let's just take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get back into the training aspect of what you've been doing.
Okay, cool.
Back to it, Sergeant Hunter.
Sweet.
Welcome. So before we took our break, you were talking about kind of the morale, but how y'all keep it going and the training aspect with the medevac. But even before being in that unit, even with the 103rd, Kim Battalion or whoever, the engineers, like, what's stuff that you kind of learn along the way, and does it go hand in hand with what you do on the civilian side? How long did it take you to get to the flight paramedic on the civilian side as far as with the guard?
Probably about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
To get to flying on the civilian side. That's a whole other kettle of fish. But long and the short of it is be an experienced and kind of motivated paramedic, and then you just have to interview and apply till someone likes you enough to hire you.
Yeah.
And then you never stop learning.
Right.
Ever.
It's always.
Yeah,
Always
especially on the
something.
civilian side, doing like critical care transports and stuff like that. Medicine moves both glacially slow and incredibly fast.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's on you. You have to be like personally motivated to
Yeah.
kind of. No one's going to hand it to you.
Well, and with that, was there anything that you can remember that was like something similar to being in the field, being a medic, that you like kind of remember on that civilian side, or something you did on the civilian side that you remembered as a medic, like came in handy, like on the spot? Was there anything like that ever kind of happened or a scenario like that you can remember?
Talk about like translating my military experience.
Yeah, does it
All
kind of
the
go
time.
hand in hand, or is it just totally different?
all the time.
Yeah.
So military medicine, civilian medicine it's like a Venn diagram. There's overlaps, and there's components of both
know who
that you
Ben
can
is.
use. the old Venn diagram. But you can take components of military medicine and throw it into civilian practice. Like obviously trauma medicine is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
We can translate that. But I think a lot of times it's like the training and the logistics of doing care in suboptimal environments, which you're constantly in,
Yeah.
even civilian side.
Right.
Kind of translates really well. And that can be from simple things such as patient packaging to just giving like a very brief and succinct patient handoff at the bedside to like a trauma team. Just giving them, I literally just do a missed report. Like the same thing that I teach, TC3 all service members or CLS, I do the same thing on a critical care transport. It might be a little bit more elaborate in some ways, but generally speaking, the first 30 seconds of my report, especially if they're critical, is just a regular old missed report. So it's an example of just base military medicine that
Yeah.
anyone we teach to all comers, all provider levels, that I use every day on the civilian side.
Yeah.
So, there's plenty of overlap between procedures, skills, and a lot of it's mindset driven too, of think critically, think on your feet, and
Right.
think in the best interest of your patient.
Yeah.
And you're never in an ideal environment. My office at my civilian job is roughly the size of this table. This table's actually a little bit bigger than like where the patient sits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got about this much room. If I move my hand out like this and lean a little bit, I can hit the door of the opposite side of the aircraft.
Right.
So you kind of get accustomed to working in.
Yeah, just adapting to where you're at.
Yeah, it's the same thing in military medicine. You start to work in the field, and I think there's a lot of benefits to translating that military experience to civilian practice.
Yeah.
That makes you a better provider. It's not an end-all be-all. You don't want to be the guy that comes like, well, we'll end the Army, comma. It's like, cool, no one cares.
Yeah.
You're not in the Army today. You're at the same ambulance service. You're at your flight job or your hospital job. But you can take the best parts of that and translate it to that practice without holding on to it too much, if that makes sense.
And I think that's what with the Guard in itself, and I know the medical side it can definitely kind of relate dealing with the body. But we tell these soldiers sometimes that even with their MOS, some of them come with those extra skills, and it goes from anything, whether it's a truck driver and they're an 88 mic or a fueler or anything like that. It's like you learn these skills to adapt and overcome. You're in typically the environment you don't want to be in when stuff happens. You know?
Yeah.
So it's that thinking game that you play to always kind of be creative and make it happen and perform. So I get the hand in hand thing with the medical side. With going to the medevac, let's talk about some of the training aspects. I know you have to sometimes really be creative because y'all do many things as far as going out on these missions, and it could be, I know a lot of sometimes the gorge, it's always kind of been brought up that people go up to the gorge and get injured, or they get lost, or they're in a place they can't get out of. And did you train a lot on the hoist and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, we all, the entire unit did.
Goes over, yeah. What's that typically look like then? Do y'all set up a scenario out in a field, or?
Yeah, so it kind of follows the same training algorithm that you would do as any unit level trainer. So you start with the crawl, walk, run, sort of paradigm.
Yep.
So the crawl might be ground school. It might be doing stuff in like in the aircraft, not moving, like in the cabin with the power on, and like practicing edge transitions in and out of the aircraft on the hoist, especially with new hoist operators or new devices, because just negotiating in and out of the aircraft can be its own skill set.
Well, is there, not to stop you, but is there, I'm assuming there's some kind of loadout or a layout that goes in to the bird that we know where all this stuff is at. And I think that's a huge thing when it comes to training. When those scenarios hit, everybody kind of knows dress right dress. This is where this is at. This is where this person sits and stuff like that.
We definitely have so our philosophy is if it works for the crew, it works for us.
Okay.
What we want to know is that at least the base set of equipment that we've agreed on is in the aircraft. And it typically doesn't get radically changed, but some medics are notorious for this. We have our own little isms, and we like to move certain things around just to make it easier on us and our practice pattern. But generally speaking, all the loadouts remain pretty much consistent, the same.
Yeah.
So you have, rescue gear that's currently in this corner. It might be staged a little differently based on the crew and their preference. But generally speaking, our TTPs are pretty common across the board. Hey, we expect to carry this kind of equipment, have these capabilities ready to rock, and make sure everyone's on the same page as to where it's at and how it's staged and ready for use. So, deployed, there's a lot of conversations about how to set up the aircraft and eventually just do it, be it Kosovo or Afghanistan or domestic operations.
Right.
And we set aside things like kind of like aircraft, we call it aircraft boxes. So basically, this like rapid deployment, we'll have basically boxes pre-staged in our cage. That's essentially like an aircraft loadout, like the bare minimum. This is what we need to effect care, because the rescue gear will usually live on or close to the aircraft.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy just to grab that and put it on. We don't necessarily fly around with it every single day, but if we get notice that a mission's coming up, a lot of us will go ahead and come in, start rigging the aircraft, and get it ready in a pretty short amount of time. That's kind of why we went to that push-pack model of being able to rapidly grab first-out gear, outfit an aircraft in a short time span, and then get blades moving and get wherever we need to go.
Yeah, and take off. You're talking about, like, even with your deployments, like Afghanistan or even Kosovo, y'all follow in on, like, kind of the birds over there that they have? Yeah. Is that how that works? And
yeah,
so I was interested on who flies what where and what gets shipped or whatever.
So we fly usually what's called TPE, or the theater provided equipment, right? So aircraft are no different. So that piece of crap Humvee that you had to PMCS and wherever you went, it's the same thing with aircraft. They're old.
Yeah.
They're beat to hell, and we try very hard to love them. Yeah. But they are hard to love.
Yes.
So our maintenance test pilots and our crew chiefs and our our ground tangos were constantly like trying their absolute and doing an amazing job of trying to keep those turds in the air.
Yeah. No, I get
because
it.
some of them are not awesome. Same thing with equipment. TPE biomedical equipment is really hard it's abused.
Right.
So
been
it's
used
hard
a
to make
lot.
sure it's serviced.
Yeah.
You supplement it with your own equipment, but also trying to make it better than how you found it.
Exactly.
So, and a lot of that's from maintenance of the aircraft to TTPs while you're there to, hey, let's get all this biomed on the same, kind of schedule, because it hasn't been for the last 5 or 6 years.
A long time.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that's been in theater, I think it's the thing. Like, when we went over, it was like, we're getting all this TPE, and you're like, you get excited about it. We're going to have all this stuff.
Yeah, we're going to have all these cool things,
And
and
you
you
get over
get
there,
the
you're like,
things,
holy
these are garbage. Holy shit.
But like you said, it's your equipment. It's got to work. You got to make mission happen. So it was like, that was one of the first things we did once we got on ground, was always you just start falling on equipment and what works, what doesn't. Let's start getting the stuff, written up or whatever and going over. So I get that. But okay, so training with your crew. So do you have a select crew that you always, like, that's your crew in the unit, or is it you can just get tasked with just
Everyone
different people?
trains with everyone.
Okay.
So generally speaking, we have really across the unit we have really good crew cohesion. Anyone can hop in the aircraft generally speaking, without getting into the weeds. The crew composition, anyone can fill those roles if they're qualified to be in that role.
Yeah.
Generally
Gotcha.
speaking, right? So, a lot of times overseas you'll do what's called battle rostering, which is where you might fly with a pretty consistent like crew for the deployment or for a certain time in the deployment. But a lot of that has to do with things like time in the aircraft, flight hours, and risk mitigation.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put 2 super new people together necessarily. You might want to spread out your experience and your qualifications. That helps build better air crew, but also do things like mitigate risk. So you don't want to concentrate. If you have 4 people who all have a lot of combat experience, you don't want to put them necessarily all in the same crew. You want to spread that out if you're in a combat environment, right?
And that's kind of like your SOP then. It's
kind of an unwritten rule,
right?
You can just kind of look at it. But it's the common sense thing. Like battle rostering is a recognized TTP in Army aviation, but it's also just kind of like common sense. Like, don't concentrate all of your experience in one aircraft consistently or across the duty crew. Like, mix things up, get people exposed to different. We all fly to the same standard, but there's still a few ways to skin the cat.
Right.
So seeing people's different takes on things or different little techniques that they use is good for everyone. Every member of the air crew gets to see something a little bit different and take the best of what they like, and if they don't, they can leave it. As long as you're meeting the same standard, that's kind of what matters.
Right. What's something with before MOB or just training aspects in general, where there would be like an annual training or even a mission set that's even over here on stateside? Was there stuff that you remember when you were doing something in that moment? You're like, we've trained this. Like it's going through your head. It's like everything's just kind of flowing. Or was it something did you ever do something where you're trying to load a patient or you're going out to the gorge and you're like, man, we should have worked on this part of it? Was there anything that ever stood out like that to you that you can remember?
I've been on both sides of it.
Yeah.
So going back to your earlier question, we'll start fairly small with like, hey, let's get familiar. Let's do basic hoist qualification or basic medevac qualification. Because, domestically we place a lot of emphasis on things like hoist rescue and like domestic search and rescue operations and DOM ops and support like that. But, we still do have a very important military, combat mission that we train for. So, finding the balance between, hey, training for 9 lines, making sure that you get your wheels up in very, very quick, sub 10 minutes. We do first up, second up drills. How do you respond to a mass call with multiple aircraft or with an unknown number of patients? And also, how do I execute a complex hoist rescue in the gorge through foliage? So, we build these different training evolutions for different mission sets. And you can blend them too. I mean, there's a lot of overlap between the two. And, part of that is kind of self-derived. We'll go out here on a training period and kind of do it on our own. Part of it's more deliberately planned through, just like regular unit training cycles throughout the year and, throughout our, I can't remember what's called now, but what used to be the Afrigen cycle. And then some of it's like very deliberately planned, like, hey, we're going to bring in we brought in Air Rescue Systems, which was this is not a corporate, endorsement, but we brought in a civilian contractor.
Right.
Who had a lot of hoist experience with the DoD.
And that's important because we always talk about the civilian side, how you do these joint training operations sometimes, 'cause you got to.
They helped to develop some of the SOPs that we use. So we brought them in for hoist training, and that really, really helped our readiness and our skills, and we ended up using it in the floods. And then, domestically, we as much as we possibly can, try to set up training, joint training events with Kentucky Emergency Management, different search and rescue agencies throughout the Commonwealth, especially in the gorge or in the areas that we, have historically been called to, and try to strengthen those partnerships. And it helps. It's just good training from the technical aspect, but also the larger aspect of how do you integrate military civilian operations.
Yeah.
How do you plan for this? Because we talk two different languages. So the benefit of myself and a lot of other people in the unit that have experience in the public safety realm is being able to kind of like blend those. Because if I go to a military officer and be like, hey, do you know anything about incident command system? They're probably not going to know a whole lot, but they'll know a whole lot about military command systems. So figuring out how to like liaise between those two and help seamlessly work through civilian incident command, civilian incident response, and also package it in a way that military people can understand it on the green side, and also work with the civilians in a high pressure situation.
Right.
Because the time you're trying to sort that out should not be on the mission, right? It's hard. But there's definitely been training evolutions in real life. Well, I guess in real life where I was like, oh, I've done this in training before.
Yeah.
Just regular 9-line training, kind of bread and butter flight medic stuff. Of, hey, we train the absolute piss out of do 9 lines. And you go out and you do your first couple real 9 lines. Like most of them, at least procedurally, every mission is different, but procedurally, like, okay, we've trained for this. We get in the air quickly. We're safe about it, but we're also very, very fast and very good at what we do. Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, we train for civilian, rescue operations, search and rescue. And you get out there and you're like, I have never experienced anything like this before. Like some of those you just have to do. Yeah. Like you kind of got the broad strokes. You have the technical competencies to work around water, to be hoisted onto a roof or use your rescue equipment. But every scenario is going to be a little bit different. Yeah. So can't necessarily say that every time I've been like, yes, this was the exact scenario I trained for. Right. A lot of this is not the exact scenario I trained for, but there's a lot of it rhymes. And then there's stuff where I've been like, I have never trained for this before, and we're just going to figure it out based on experience and previous training. Yeah, very calm and collective. Yeah, and it kind of goes back to that. Like you just have to figure it out. Yeah, and you were with Sergeant Lowe in the floods, correct? I was. Were you on the roof as well? With that same mission he was on, I think it's if I remember right. Yeah, I was with him. He talked about the maneuver. That was one where he was like, we had to wing the maneuver, the shake and bakes, what I called it. Yeah, the old Ricky Bobby. Yeah. But that was an example of. And that was right from the hip, right? To get him in that house. 100%. Yeah. We broke every rule of swiftwater rescue. Yes, but it had to happen. But right? I mean, it worked out. We can sit here and say that it worked out. 99 times out of 100, it doesn't. We got the one time it worked. Yeah. Saying it had a good outcome for everyone. Do I ever want to do anything like that ever again? Man. Not if I can help it. No, yeah. I'd rather have the deliberate equipment and stuff like that to affect those rescues. But that is an example of, we've had training in the past. We have had, our swiftwater rescue techs. We had that training. We had the hoist training, but they were in isolation. Now we got to try and figure out in a suboptimal environment, how do I put this together in a very, time sensitive and high pressure, sort of environment. Yeah. And that's the same the world over. Every rescue, it's not as dramatic necessarily, but every rescue is like that. Right. Every single one's going to be different. Yeah. Even on civilian side, working as firefighter, paramedic, is like every structure fire is a little bit different. Every medical call is going to be a little bit different. It might have the same script, same sort of routine and flow about it, but there's unique considerations every single time. Yeah. And I think you're just in the field that you can't train for something that it stays the same. Correct. Regardless of the injury or something, I understand, but it's like everything else is just one of those things that anything, the environment, the equipment, something will change or something's going to happen, and you just got to kind of react and be quick. And it seems like to me it's what always keeps you on your toes, and that's why your training's always got to be fresh, because you might do that 9-line just repetitively, but there's always going to be a little bit different scenario each time. I mean, I hope to God you've never been up there in the air and you're like, oh damn, we forgot the hoist. You know what I mean? Like that'd be my thing. Like, so luckily it's bolted to the aircraft. We got to take this extension cord and pull him up. But just those things there is, to me, is those muscle memory moments and really harping on training for you guys, because like I said, it's a life or death situation for the most part when y'all get called out. I mean, that's what's happening. It's an emergency. So a lot of it can be fairly routine too. Yeah, like it's some rescues aren't super dramatic. They just need to not be where they are.
Right.
It doesn't make it any less impactful. It just means that hey, you're going to be isolated in this hauler for the next week to month.
Yeah.
So do you have food? Do you have medicine? Do you have water? Do you have a place to use the bathroom that's not going to devolve into a public health nightmare?
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay, we should probably remove you from the situation and find you some temporizing help.
Yeah.
So, and that's still a rescue. So you're just kind of looking forward down the way. It's just not as dangling off, the hoist hook, kind of dramatic, but it's no less impactful. But I think the kind of key thing for our unit is getting excellent foundational training in medicine and rescue, and getting exposure to both military and civilian components of our job, and then building an environment and a culture where, that sort of like mission command sort of philosophy of being able to execute on the fly. Like we've given you the tools, and we have SOPs, we have TTPs like everyone else, and we adhere to them. But, just like in civilian medicine, not your patients don't read the protocols. So, and neither does your tactical situation. Neither does your training exercise.
Damn, it'd be nice if it did.
It would be super awesome. It'd be really easy. I could sleep through it. But empowering people to put them in situations, challenge them, and make decisions. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah.
Make a decision, figure it out, and act in the best interest of your crew, your safety, your mission, your patient. Right. So, being able to build that kind of culture is great. It can be a little bit onerous to manage because we're all super type A. It's like trying to herd cats in a lot of ways. Yeah. But, we can all come together and be like, just like the floods or like, any mission overseas, of laser focused on this is what we need to do. And we'll have a conversation about it. And like, even if something goes completely to hell in a handbasket of like, all right, this is suboptimal, but this is how we can work the problem.
You pull it in and reassess.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's all about working the problem of like, from a basic, like, hey, the cable's stuck. It seems like a huge deal, and it's not a small deal, but you work the problem. Yeah. Like, and same thing with clinical scenarios. So like, hey, this patient's not doing as well as we thought. Work the problem. And empowering, especially your juniors, to feel confident enough to do that, and not just be looking over their shoulder for like, okay, what does Sergeant Hunter want me to do?
Right.
Well, I want you to figure it out on your own. Yeah. Like, take the steps that you need to take and execute them. It might look different than how I do things or how any other NCO does things, but did you accomplish the mission? What was in the best interest of the patient? Keep yourself and your crew as safe as reasonably possible. Yeah, cool.
We're good.
It's done.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this. We'll take our last break, and then we've harped on the training and some of the different aspects of what relates to the civilian world and joint training with civilian side. But let's talk about some good stories when we come back that you've kind of encountered over your years. And I've heard a few through the grapevine, but can't wait to hear them from you as well. But we'll come back. We'll talk about those real life scenarios and where the training really kicked in. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to the G3P. We have been talking with Staff Sergeant Hunter on the medevac and just training over his time frame with the Kentucky Army National Guard. We've covered things as far as joint training operations, what it's like to basically work triage type stuff and scenarios and loadouts. And so actually tell me about this thing. I'm used to like a big medic bag. This is like a medic fanny pack.
Yeah, it's
I'm not cutting you down. Fanny packs are coming back, man. The hipsters are talking about
them. I would like it to be on the record that I was relentlessly made fun of for this.
Oh, really?
Until everyone else got one because they saw the light. So I'm what you call a trendsetter.
I like it.
This is just it's called a March belt. Yeah. So this is something that I keep on me. Pretty much civilian side when I do like wilderness stuff, or guard side too. It's got everything I need to treat basically the first 10 minutes of any life threat in March. So massive hemorrhage, airway, respiration, circulation, head heat, hypothermia.
Big deal stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff that'll kill you now. So it's just meant so I can work off my body. Yeah. It slims down my med bag a little bit. I can make room for other things like blood with a blood cooler or something like that if we're deployed. It's a lot of fun. The reason I brought that in is because of the... Oh, yeah, throw it on.
I think I put on a couple pounds.
There you go. You're basically a medic now.
Yeah, got it. I just like fly in. Look at
Yeah,
that.
you got it. That's all it is.
I can get it now. Do you wear on the? But you put it on the back.
No,
wear
I
this?
work out of it on the front.
I'll put my.
I'll store it on the back, but I flip it around
I mean,
to
you
actually
turn
work
it-
out of it.
Yeah, that's legit. You just I don't know. I'm used to
it's
seeing a
bun-
medic
it's-
bag. You know.
It's all bungee corded too, so you can just open it up. It doesn't flop out everywhere, but it's got monitor equipment in
I
there.
don't know if you
and-
can see that crane. I bet that thing's been on there a while. No one is coming. It's up to us. There you go.
That's actually why I brought it in, is because I kind of love that mantra. And I got this patch years ago. As
Yeah.
you can tell, it's
kind of embedded.
it's like
right.
I'm afraid to take it off. It won't survive. But it kind of embodies like a mindset
Yeah.
of like, so you are the help.
Mhm.
I remember like one of my first calls as a brand new paramedic was working with an EMT partner, but essentially like the decision maker. And I like looked over my shoulder for my preceptor, and there was no one there.
Nobody
And I was
there.
like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's a good reminder of we work in teams, we work in systems, but at some point in time, like you have to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Your training and everything like that has to be challenging. It doesn't need to be needlessly brutal, but it has to challenge you, and
Yeah.
it has to reinforce kind of an ability to be independent, which is something that it kind of seems at odds with the military. But if you look through history, it's littered with examples of great people in uniform who were put in a situation they had to act decisively on their own. And kind of that is, for me, a good reminder of like, hey, don't expect help necessarily,
There you go.
especially when we look towards like future conflicts of denied, degraded, especially as a medical provider. Like, it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like no one's going to be able to come. Like, we're going to try very, very hard, but it might not come on the conventional timeline, right?
Might just be you.
Yeah, it might just be you for a while. So, or you are the help. You are the 911.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a reminder of the responsibility and the gravity, and also just a way to like, hey, don't get dependent on other people. Work with people, build those systems, build those teams. But at the end of the day, you also have to be able, competent, and confident enough to like kind of take whatever situation you're in and just like, hey, right, wrong, or indifferent, we're going to
Yeah.
execute.
Well,
Because this is the best solution that we have.
Yeah.
Going back to the thing with Jeremy, it was not in any way something I would ever do again or recommend doing, but it's what had to be done.
Yeah.
In that situation. So that was an example of that patch. Like, hey, no one's coming. It's up to us, dude. Like,
gotta
what
do
are we
this.
going to do? Or we're not going to listen to people drown.
Right.
So it's the same thing on every mission. Every flight medic that I've worked with has had a moment like that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about one. Tell
Yeah.
me a good story then, where the training was involved. Whether whatever happened. What's something that really always sticks out to you, whether it was on a deployment or even on stateside. Like, was there anything that ever stands out like that you can remember? Like, this is crazy. Like, this is
Man, don't tell the flight surgeon this, but I've hit my head a lot.
Yeah, all right,
So I
yeah.
have a hard time remembering things. I think most recently, it's probably been, well, there's been a couple from civilian, but I'll stick to the military ones. Most recently, we had did Renee or anyone cover the British soldier with the bee sting?
Yes. But talk about that. That
Okay.
was one thing where your name did come up. Like, that was crazy. He was, anaphylactic, and it was cardiac arrest and all that, how it developed, but how the room had to be taken over. And,
Yeah.
and the lead part of it, I think it was you that she had brought up. It was like, this is what I need. This is what I need.
Yeah, so I don't want to sit here and toot my own horn. I'm really bad at this. So
Toot away. Let's hear it.
just for the background, we had a British soldier had a bee sting. Didn't know he was allergic. He's apparently highly allergic. The British medics and their regimental surgeon did a fantastic job resuscitating. He went into cardiac arrest. Did a fantastic job resuscitating him. Gave him EpiPens. They got pulses back at the door. The roll one, but we got in there, and this is kind of going back to everything that I mentioned about like doing good training, building a group of people who are competent and confident in their ability and to take charge of a situation. We basically got a call of like, hey, there's someone over here who is super sick. The resuscitation that's happening in the roll one is probably not optimal, and they need help. So, of course, all of the medics have a terminal case of FOMO. So anytime we hear like something's going on, we're all just, which is the culture that I want.
Yeah.
Like I want medics and crew
up
chiefs
and going.
to fist fight over trying to take a mission. So that's how you know you're doing well.
Right.
And in this exact instance, I had a patient who was critically sick, and he was in a pretty rare condition called refractory anaphylaxis, which is basically he is continuously in an anaphylactic reaction. It's not responding to conventional therapy like epinephrine or fluid or anything like that. So, he's kind of on the precipice of going into cardiac arrest again. So he's in what we call a peri-arrest state. He's in a severe, profound state of shock. And going in there, had Mo Ferguson, Ryan Stoll, Ashley was in there. All the medics out that were currently on ground from the desktop side of the house were in there. And Ryan was helping work logistics. Mo was treating the patient. Ashley was in there treating, and everyone's doing good things. Just kind of immediately recognizing where gaps were. Like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this other thing. And sort of taking a step back and looking at the room, I myself kind of analyzed that my guys were doing the right thing. They were inserting themselves, trying to not add to the chaos of the situation and trying to get things moving for the patient. But looking out, I saw the role one was kind of doing the best that they knew how to do,
right,
politely. And it was not going in a productive direction for the patient. And kind of exercising a little bit of tact and leadership and trying to engage with people like, hey, I think this is what we need to do. And it wasn't going anywhere, and saw that this patient's condition was getting worse and worse and worse. Finally just taking it upon myself to essentially take charge of the situation very confidently and a little abruptly.
And that's what we want NCOs to do, regardless. I know this is a very, very sensitive, situation that y'all are in, but it's the whole point of, stepping up. Like, this is your chance. It's on you to do it. And that role as an NCO, you just took off with it.
And it can be challenging, but it's one thing I want any provider, any military medical provider to kind of take away from this of patient care is patient care. And it's a fine line, right? Like, if you're going to take charge, you either have to be right or you have to accept the consequences of being wrong.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But just act in the best interest of your patient and the information that you have. It can be a little intimidating going, like, basically taking a resuscitation attempt away from a physician who's a colonel and be like, I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
Like, this is...
That's huge. That's crazy.
But this is my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm a critical care flight paramedic.
Yes.
I do this every day for a day job. And seeing where this is going and being able to speak up and be like, all right, everyone stop. Look at me. This is what's going on with this patient. This is the pathology. And this is what we're going to do about it. Does anyone have any questions? It's not in any way tied up in personality.
Yeah.
It's very clinical, but it's also very direct. Mm-hmm. You can get people's attention without screaming and cussing.
Yeah, right.
And you can just be confident and clear. And in those instances, it acts as enough like of a record scratch where the loops that have been broken, and as this train kind of goes further and further off the track, sometimes we just need a level set.
Yeah.
And being able to, and I know any one of my medics can do that, and have done it, of being able to be like, hey, I'm the adult in the room right now. This is how we're going to run the situation, and then take it and run it.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
at that moment, like,
yeah, and we had a good outcome from it.
And that's crazy. But how did it feel when, as you were doing it, you knew in your head, like, here we go.
I was like, I'm probably fucked. like I just yelled at a colonel.
That bleep button. But no, that's.
I was like, I just went toe to toe with the colonel, and I'm probably gonna lose.
Yeah,
but
right.
At the end of the day, there's also a British physician in there who is an emergency physician,
right?
And an actively practicing one at that, who kind of pulled us all collectively aside and was like, "Thank you," because
awesome.
That was getting out of hand.
Yeah.
So, and that goes back to what I said. Like, you're gonna do that, you gotta accept the consequence.
Yeah.
Like, I felt and would do it again in a heartbeat, but I knew I'm an E6. He's an O6. Mm-hmm. Like, even though theoretically, like, medicine is medicine and rank doesn't necessarily have a role.
Yeah.
He could easily be like, hey, that's insubordination.
Yeah, trump that real quick. But I mean, there was just the way that y'all handled it, how the scenario.
It also goes back to
working
tact
out,
too.
Yeah, right.
Like that's an underrepresented skill in leadership sometimes, of being able to do that, but also to show intent.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, this is not me trying to wrest control, because there's also, a first sergeant in there who's a paramedic, and just be like, hey, we kind of missed the mark on this a little bit. We're going to recalibrate, and you can do that in a way that intervenes and kind of takes care of the urgency of the situation without pissing people off more than you're just going to at baseline.
Yeah.
And being able to follow back with them and have conversations and be like, hey, wasn't trying to be a jerk, but this is kind of the view from my foxhole of what I saw and things that needed to be rectified immediately.
Yeah.
I've seen this in my civilian practice once before. It did not have a good outcome. Patient ended up on ECMO and ultimately died.
Yeah.
So seeing how critical this was and how relatively rare it is,
right,
and to him have been resuscitated from cardiac arrest once, which is already a pretty good feat. This guy had all the luck in the world, and he used it up in probably a day.
That's insane. Because he walked away and.
Yeah, he went to the ICU for a couple days, but ultimately he was discharged neurologically intact with no clinical deficits whatsoever, and came back to meet us, and that was super awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it's when you kind of realize what you've done,
Yeah, but I think it also goes to show kind of the team and like the culmination of the training. So it's not doing a bunch of sexy rescue stuff or anything like that. It's just a group of individuals who work well as a team, and who have a deep well of experience to draw upon, a deep well of knowledge, and have trained for these sort of critical scenarios, high pressure, very, very sick patients or very, very urgent situations. Like, we all know what we need to do, but also more importantly, we all know where we can fit in the team, of being able to look at a situation and go, resuscitation lead is covered, I need to get better access, or I need to do another task. So it's not just about being, because we're all the same rank, right? We're all E6s. It's about being a good follower too. That leadership and followership kind of goes hand in hand, especially in medicine, of being able to kind of like be fluid, like take charge when you need to, but also too many chefs in the kitchen is equal. And that's kind of the situation that they were in, right?
That's important. Yeah.
Too many chefs in the kitchen. You got 30 people in a recess room.
Yeah.
We don't need this many people. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and everyone's got their 2 cents. Like, why is the vet in the room? Why is the dentist in this room? Get out.
Yeah.
Like, love you, mean it, but please leave.
Yeah.
You're no value added right now. If they're a dog or if they need a dental abscess taken care of, I'll come find you.
We'll come get you.
But
that's important for soldiers to take away, is that point of, hey, it's okay when you know that you're right, or how you've done this before and it works, and something's going wrong. I mean, it's okay to step up tactfully. Yeah. Regardless, speak up, talk to them, and even, like you said, reassess it afterwards. Like, hey, I wasn't trying to overstep my bounds here, but I knew, everything went good. I was just trying to show you that I've been here before, I've done this. And I think a lot of times good leaders, they'll recognize that. Yeah. And I always did it as a platoon sergeant. Even one that's E5 knew how to do this maneuver better or whatever. Hey, that's fine. This is why we do this. And hip pocket training. You will do this now. You will show them.
I've learned tons of stuff from medics who are, I won't say like beneath me, but who are like more junior than me.
Yeah.
Civilian side and on the military side. Lots of very, very smart, talented people out there. So don't ever let rank get in the way of your own growth and development. Like, you can learn something from people who are junior in your squad. They may have life experience you're not aware of. They may have, familial experience. Like, hey, I didn't experience this firsthand, but my dad did this, and previously in the GWAT, and this is what he told me about it. Or insert any sort of thing. But they've taught me plenty of clinical lessons, clues, and like, oh, damn, I didn't know that. That's pretty rad. Why don't you teach a class on it? Like,
that's cool.
So never be, just because you get to a certain position or level of seniority, don't automatically discount things that are brought up to you as like points of improvement.
Absolutely.
Like, don't underestimate your juniors. Like, they'll always find a way to surprise you.
Well, with what you've been talking about as far as the team showing up, the team's done this, having the kind of that cohesion. Do you remember a time where it was like, maybe you got dropped off, or anything? Was you ever by yourself in any of these scenarios where y'all do something in the gorge, maybe, and they had to put you in somewhere or anything like that?
Oh yeah,
that you remember.
I mean, during the floods, it was pretty wild because we had so many people that were just all over the place, of just getting dropped off on a rooftop.
Yeah,
and them peeling off, and you're just like,
And you're there.
or we're helping, move people out, get them, into the baskets out of attics or whatever, and move them up. And then, you're like, hey, go ahead and go drop the casualties off, go get, because they're at like max capacity, or I'm going to finish up a secondary search or something like that inside the house as far as I can get to. And just kind of being there on the ground and being like, or on the roof, being like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I am alone on a rooftop in the middle of eastern Kentucky,
Yeah.
surrounded by moving water.
That's crazy.
This is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's moments like that where you're like, all right, well, we're going to have to figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah.
That's when I found, like, dogs in attics typically don't like visitors. So, yeah.
Hey, you don't even think about stuff like that.
Yeah,
as
I
well,
didn't either.
right?
I got taken out by a husky. Like, he was extraordinarily angry
Yeah.
that I was there. And so, I was
And
popping in doing a little secondary
no Scooby
search.
treats in the fanny pack, huh?
Yeah, and he came bolt down to
Really?
that corner and was all teeth, fur, and meanness. I'm
Well,
like,
and
oh,
that's
God.
what you said. You do some kind of scenario. It's never the same. And who would have thought?
Yeah, never trained for that one.
Who would have thought? Let's get a dog out here and have an attack us or whatever. But
Yeah, that was
wild.
Okay, we need.
Yeah.
That's a new scene safety consideration. I'd put at the forefront of my mind here.
So, with y'all getting dropped in like that, did y'all practice like, military's got hand and arm signals or something like that? Did y'all have things that y'all would do as far as talking to the crew once y'all got dropped, or was there some kind of
we had radio-
standard things y'all would do?
We had
Chem
radio
lights or-
communication.
Okay, yeah.
But there's a bunch of different, there's a whole SOP on the rescue SOP, but typically radio is going to be our primary.
Right.
And then, alternates, we can try, other means of communication. You even hop on a C-cell frequency if you need to, but even just like cell phones or hand arm signals, lights. So, for us, when we do hoisting, typically our ready for pickup signals, we have strobe, and we'll just pick it up.
Oh, I got you.
Strobe the aircraft,
Right.
and they know. So, and that helps, especially if comms are down. Comms are always down. Radio's fried. Pick your flavor of complication or inconvenience of like, hey, I still have a way that we've all agreed upon and trained of like,
That's how we're going to do it.
I'm ready to get picked up.
Yeah.
And these little strobes, you can pick them up from miles and miles away.
You know what you should bring back? It just now hit me too. We was talking about this. Mine would be, nobody does raise the roof anymore. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, razor.
Like, what happened to that?
I don't
I mean,
know.
we got the 6-7 crap and all. I mean, like,
I think it went the way
of.
of a more cultured internet.
Put that in. God, it's a downfall. It should be raise the roof. I'm telling you. I need to put that SOP. That'd be it. But yeah, I mean, man, that's pretty unique. Like you said, it's just, I mean, from a dog aspect or whatever. It's just whatever y'all seem like you do. It's just, you got to adapt no matter what. And like you said, thinking on your feet. And I think that's what's very unique in this field. Because like I said, it's always kind of a life or death situation, it seems like, no matter what. Like I said, it might not be sexy. It might just be something you go out and you just got to kind of, make this rescue or whatever, somebody's in the wrong place. But it's like, it's a very important, maneuver that you do to get there, and the life-saving part of it, and getting them, to rescue.
Yeah, and even the ones that aren't necessarily life or death, we're there to provide care and to expedite or to serve as logistics, right?
Yeah.
So half of our, I wouldn't say half, but a large part of our job is simply getting patients to the care they need to access. So, and quickly, because of any given reason. It might not be an emergency now, but it could be in a very short order, or they're at risk, right? They're just at risk of complication or deterioration. They need a higher level of care to monitor them. So it's not always like really, really fancy stuff. It can just be a pretty routine transfer. Like, hey, they need to go from the roll one or from wherever to this hospital because we don't have X, Y, or Z thing.
Yeah.
And they need a quick ride, or they need to not bounce around, terrible back roads for 3.5 hours with a fracture.
Right. Yeah.
So it can be relatively simple, and it kind of goes back to train those things too, and train them well. Like,
Great point. Yep.
just if you do the fundamentals well, you can learn all the sexy stuff. If you do the fundamentals like garbage, you're not helping anyone.
Right.
So keep them warm, keep them comfy, give them pain meds. Basic things. It doesn't have to be, super high speed stuff all the time. Like a good litmus test for someone is how well can you do the basics.
Yeah.
And been doing critical care medicine a decent amount of time now, and it's all fancy and cool, but all that means nothing if I can't do fundamental care well. Like I'm talking like just basic all service member TC3 level care or CLS level care. Like it starts there. So we just optimize on that. My job is an optimizer on top of that. So foundational level care and training people outside of our unit to do foundational level care like that very good is a key part of what we do. Because if I'm handed a crap sandwich because training failures or whatever, I've got to work twice or three times as hard on a patient to optimize them. And that patient is also now behind the power curve substantially.
Right.
Versus you get good standard of care on the X or wherever, and now you're at or beyond where you need to be, and I can further optimize your care and help you on down the line. So, it's second and third order effects that it can be easy to cut corners in training of like, oh, we don't need to actually do that, or we're just going to verbalize it. No, do it. Like, do the things.
Yeah, do it.
If you're going to train a skill, train a skill. Like, don't do the magical hand waves. Execute it.
Right.
And probably the biggest thing that I was taught as even before I was an NCO was go out and find training and do it.
That's great.
And I was very, very lucky. Had some really awesome NCOs who just kind of gave us carte blanche of like, hey, go out and find training. Like,
that's great advice.
Don't be idle.
Advice. Yes.
And I think it's really easy and well, it is easy, but it's understandably frustrating, especially as like junior enlisted. You're at your unit. Mm-hmm. You're just doing shots and med pros. It can be hard to get the spark, especially if you're not in it on the civilian side or anything like that.
Yeah.
It can be hard to sort of.
I get that.
You're fighting your own internal motivation.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have motivation from leadership or from other people in your squad, or you don't have resources. But if you have enough motivation to look at something and go, I am dissatisfied because I'm not training.
Yeah. Right.
It's not the answer everyone wants to hear sometimes, but you can start your own training. And to a degree, you can do the whole, if you build it, they will come sort of thing, right? So there's plenty of low-cost trainer options out there that you can make. I've made, crate trainers out of cardboard, vent tubing, and SAM splints.
See, and that's the thing we're talking about. And I think it's a big thing with this podcast that we're trying to push is what creativity did you make? And you're bringing it up right now. Like, you made the training. You didn't really necessarily have the cost maybe or something, but you still figured it out.
Yeah, like in terms of money, we have no money.
Right.
But
just always look at it that way. Yeah.
You can still get good you're not going to have $100,000 patient simulators, right?
Right.
But I can take, a group of soldiers out and do a TC3 class and give them a live patient, right? And have them actually put hands on another individual.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I want to do this. Well, then do it. Mm-hmm. And then beat the training scars out of them. Like, don't look at me for assess your patient.
Perfect.
And, that goes from, a basic TC3 class all the way up to critical care level of like, okay, you want to start an infusion, mix it up, put it on the pump, program the pump, and run it.
Yeah. You
want to do this thing on the vent, put them on the vent. Because half of our care, especially in the pre-hospital on the dust-off side, is logistics. The care is only one part.
Yeah.
The dynamic and the environment of transport is its own. It's not static, right? Like, we have to train for that, and it's its own phase of care for a reason. En route care is an entirely separate thing because there is a ton of considerations. Patients can get worse. It's not just getting they're not static when we go from A to B. Like, there's so much more, much more to manage, and that's down to your aid and litter team. Like, they need to understand that, because if now you have to carry a patient, 4 or 5K through rugged terrain, that patient isn't just going to stay still. And the inclination is like, just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And there is a time for that, right? Good tactics is not always good medicine, and good medicine is not always good tactics. This is the underpinning thing of TC3. But having that in the back of their mind of like, at the next tactically feasible opportunity where we all won't get smoked by a DJI drone, I need to stop and look at this casualty, right? And because they know, they've been taught, you need to do that. Don't just leave a body on a sked and haul
off.
Right?
I'm running that 40-yard dash, baby.
And then putting the students in that scenario. So we, as a unit, we ran a lot of CLS training for NATO partners. I had a really good time. And one of the things that we did with our British friends over there did about 8 days worth of CLS and prolonged field care, or prolonged casualty care rather, training with them. And we did it all with 0 doll hairs. So
made it happen.
Yeah, and it can be, stuff that any medic can do. I know no one likes to spend their own money, but if you want to literally and figuratively invest in your training, go to Kroger or Walmart or Costco or wherever, be like, hey, what meat is expiring soon or has expired? I want to take these ribs or this pork loin.
This is great.
And
I'm glad you're telling me this.
Yeah, get a bunch of paper towels out and a knife and cut a hole in it. Like make a wound packing trainer, right? Make a way to practice finger thoracotomy or needle decompression. You know, if you've got, you know, whole blood transfusion and stuff like that is a 10-level skill. Obviously, I'm not saying just do this on a drill weekend. You need a doctor.
Yeah.
You need a medical director. You need a lot of hoops to jump through.
A lot of soldiers going out. And
Don't just like auto transfuse. Don't do an autologous transfusion just on a whim.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you know that like a key component of that is vascular access, you should probably train it, right?
Yeah.
Can you do that? Like, so look at your 10-level skills and be like, can I execute? Can my team execute these things? And then how can I do this training at low cost and make it as maximally real as possible? A lot of people get drawn into this kind of farce of you need a $100,000 simulator to have good training. We did great training with these guys with zero. Like we just used the students. We rigged up foam blocks, and it's not always pretty, but we rigged up foam blocks, made safe spaces where they could practice on people without actually putting these interventions inside their body of needle decompression, of wound packing, of giving a medication, of putting an NPA in, and teaching them like how to package and manage a patient for 8+ hours. Our final culminating evolution with them was 2 patients, multiple movements in a denied environment for around 6 to 8 hours.
That's awesome.
And just having them manage the patient and document everything, and they did a phenomenal job. But it just kind of goes to show that, and that was something we self-started. We were just like, we want to train more, and they were, they kind of came to the previous rotation. We did a smaller scale version of it, and they're like, we kind of want to do some medevac training, or also we're interested in, because of our mission set, we're small team, operate pretty far forward and don't have a lot of medical support. Like we'd like a little refresher on TC3, and we're like, sweet, and we'll do you one better. So
and just owned it. Yeah,
and those opportunities are out there. You just gotta you gotta hunt for them.
And that's great. I mean, that's definitely great info with anything. I know in the medical world too. I mean, those great ideas. You're talking about just kind of the small scale of just going out and getting it yourself and making it happen. But even with young soldiers, training on anything as far as your comms, convoys, whatever. I mean, you can do a lot of this stuff right there at home station and make it happen. And great training. It's a great refresher. And like you said, the basics. If you can't do the basics, then we can't move on until we can do that. And that's what's going to make you efficient. So
yeah, I feel like too, there's a lot of stuff you can still start at home. But if you're willing to take the initiative and plan and work with people and figure out who the stakeholders are, and just be able to approach your leadership, and which I understand, not all leadership is going to be as receptive. There's a lot of competing priorities, white space in the calendar. But for the commanders out there, I do want to impress this I know there's a lot of competing priorities, but training med is something that is absolutely not negotiable in my mind. I am a medic, so I am definitely biased. But when we talk about lethality, the other side of that coin is survivability. Mm-hmm. And if you look for more than 5 seconds at any sort of anything dealing with LISCO, the world's biggest buzzword right now, survivability is key.
That's key.
Right? It is a incredibly lethal battle space to be working in, but you have to be able to survive it. And medically, that starts with first responder care.
Nice.
If you're not training TC3 and training it well and training it hard, you're already behind the power curve in your survivability. All the anti-drone systems in the world won't matter. Your body armor only helps so far. You have to train med, and you have to train well. And if you have a medical section where you're like, I have concerns or questions, you need to engage them and start rehabilitating that and that practice. It's easy to do. And you can always ask, send up RFIs for, you might not get it, because again, in terms of money, we have no money. But there are always ways to train these skills and train them well.
Right.
And I mean, if people can train these skills well in far more austere environments than your drill hall floor, you can find a way to. So that's my key thing of, you have to get that commander and that leadership buy-in. Yeah. And it can be very hard, because I do definitely respect the fact that they have a lot of priorities going on.
Yeah.
Pulled in 1,000 different directions. But at its core, that is a skill that transcends, that just makes for a prepared person, right? And that's kind of what the Guard is about, of like, how many stories you hear of guardsmen going to drill and roll up on a car accident or themselves, and they're able to put some of their training into practice.
Right.
So it's not just thinking about worst case scenario and combat, it's how can you be ready domestically.
Yeah.
How can you help
well-rounded.
if there's an active aggressor situation you find yourself in, or a family member gets hurt at home? Like, you can still do things. This makes for a prepared person.
Nice.
So,
no, I agree 100%. Well, I mean, great stories, great, just wealth of knowledge. I can already tell.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, I mean, you can tell. I mean, you're passionate about it and stuff like that. So Sergeant Hunter, I mean, thank you for taking out your time today to come in. It's definitely been fun. It's been interesting. Like I said, the medic world is always just something crazy to me because, I mean, it's just wild what you can do. But
It's a lot of fun.
But before we go, always give a gift.
Oh, thank you.
Kind of settled. Here we go again, Crane. With the G3P mug.
Oh, well,
can
thank
take
you
it
very
anywhere.
much.
You're drinking your coffee. Maybe we'll transfer this. But yeah, perfect. See, look at that. You should get a shot in this camera here. How sexy that mug is. Bam! Fix Bayonets.
Here we go. I told Sergeant Major Stollard I'd drink with my pinky up.
Perfect. Check it off the block.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Done.
Well, Sergeant Hunter, thanks for coming in. Like I said, it was a good time talking to you. Thanks for sharing that knowledge.
Thanks for having me on.
I hope soldiers, they take this. They really harp on that training. They go. I'm hungry now, as we talked about food and a little about some meat to work on and eat. But to really reach out to their chain of command and stuff like that. Really harp on, hey, training's the key thing here. So
Yeah, and if you can always reach out to the medevac too. We love to train. If anyone out there needs ideas, or you're like, hey, I want to do these things, but I don't know quite how or where to get started, can always reach out to me through my military email address and the show notes, or just call the medevac and be like, hey, I want to talk to Sergeant Hunter or Sergeant Renee or Sergeant Stoll or Sergeant Ferguson or Sergeant. Any of us will more than
That's great.
be overjoyed to help people that want to train.
And that's what we'll
give
do.
you to give you some
make
tools.
a note. We'll put that in the description. There we go.
Jamie, write that
we
down.
might not push it out. Personal info, but I mean, out there, if you want to do some training or stuff like that,
Yeah,
these are
we're
your-
always
these are-
looking to train.
These are
So
your people right here. So
if you want to do some stuff, let us know.
okay. Well, with that being said, another great episode, great time.
Well, thanks for having me on.
So with that, enjoy life, be healthy, stay lethal. We'll see you next episode. G3P out. Hit it, Crane. Hit the music.
The music.
Thank you for joining us on the Kentucky National Guard G3 podcast, where we bring you the voices and stories behind the mission. Stay connected, stay ready, and we'll see you on the next episode.